Racial tensions are coming to a boiling point in the U.S. The Biden administration's inheriting a year of Black Lives Matter and anti-racism protests across the country after a series of police killings. But at the same time, the Biden cabinet is also celebrating the most diverse incoming team in American history. And joining us to talk more about the current racial climate, we have diversity expert Dr. Omékongo Dibinga, joining us from Washington, D.C. So let's start with the good news here. What is the diversity breakdown in the Biden administration? How does it compare to past administrations, especially Trump and Obama, of course?
Well, first of all, Happy New Year to you, and hope everyone is doing well. It's truly amazing. Not only are we seeing more gender representation than we saw with Trump and the Obama administration, we're also seeing more racial representation. But even beyond the race categories, we see that he has a transgender member of his cabinet, and he also has Pete Buttigieg, the first openly gay person to serve as a member of the cabinet, and a member of the Native American community to serve, going back to the conversation of racially as well. So he has made good on his promise, and he is only just beginning. And so many of us are excited about that, because we can have conversations about this policy or that policy, but first you have to start with what people can see, because people who represent those different demographics, they will believe that they can be what they can see. And so he has so far delivered on his promise.
Now, let's look at the growing anti-racism movement and Black Lives Matter movement in the U.S. throughout 2020. Some of the rhetoric surrounding these protests focused on racism in the Trump administration. Will that change under Biden, given the representation that he has in his cabinet? Will there be higher expectation given the diversity?
There will absolutely be higher expectations, but one of the things that President Biden has done is he said, hey, make me accountable. Some of the executive orders that he's signing right now are rescinding some of the racist policies and reports, such as the 1776 project that were issued by Trump. He's also going to be removing, imagine this, Donald Trump put a ban on teaching about anti-racism in government organizations. And we couldn't even do that anymore. That's going to be gone. So I believe that he is going to be continually be called out on these issues. He's asked us to do this, but going from having a president who people not only had expectations of him doing nothing, but actually expectations of him doing more to hurt non-white communities, this is a beautiful day for us in this field.
Well, the race issues in the U.S. don't begin and end with Trump whatsoever. What major challenges is Biden going to face during his time as president, and how much of a role will Kamala, his black VP, have?
Well, Biden's real challenge is to really see how far people want to go about these conversations about unity. We have a lot of angry people, as we saw 2 weeks ago, storm the Capitol, who believe that this country is being taken from them. And these are not the poorest members of the white community. These are people with jobs and health insurance and the like, who are just upset that their guy lost. So he has to do some work as it relates to building with them. Hopefully some of the words by people like Mitch McConnell, former majority leader of the Senate, who's also condemned these attacks, will help him. They have a 35-year relationship, so he has his work cut out for him as it relates to that. I do believe that Vice President, so amazing to say that, Kamala Harris is definitely monumental just by representation alone, but she's been doing the anti-racist work for a very long time. So she already has a broad constituency of people who want to support her. But make no mistake about it, we still have a lot of ignorance in this country. We have a lot of hate in this country. Right now, I'm living in a city that looks like a police state. Tomorrow morning, these barriers are going to come down. But some of these people who are out there trying to protest realize that now it was all a big lie and they're going to get on with their lives. But we have to root out racism in the military, in our schools, all across the country. And I believe that Biden and Vice President Harris are up for the job.
Where does Biden stand with the Black Lives Matter movement? How receptive have he and Kamala been to the protests throughout 2020?
They've been extremely receptive to the Black Lives Matter movement, and they've gotten into a little bit of controversy in some circles because Biden and Harris are not for the general idea of defunding the police. Right. That's kind of like a real lightning rod topic, but he's interested in police reform and making changes. But that term defund the police is so loaded that even many members of the Black Lives Matter movement have differing ideas about what that actually means. But he is, even in his speech today, he talked about challenging white supremacy and ending racism and building a more inclusive community. And he and Kamala Harris have embraced Black Lives Matter as part of that.
All right, Omékongo, thank you so much for joining us and breaking that down.